up, internet? You gotta hit the bleeper. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And I'm Shahir Dowd. There is no bleeper today. It's just strictly basement business.
Oh, I love basement business, and this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film Manchester by the Sea.
Say it again.
Manchester by the Sea.
By the sea.
Manchester
By the sea. Wait, now that I feel
Manchester
like a pirate.
by the Sea. No, Manchester by the Sea.
Arr.
We're getting off topic. We have a special guest with us today, Shahir.
We do?
We do. Look
Where?
to your
Where?
right.
Oh my God.
Your other right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a fellow sister-at-arms from MTV here and one of our all-time favorite nasty women, Julie Lilleby.
Woo, hiya.
What's up?
What's going on?
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much.
You were in
Glad to
Rotterdam
be
with
here.
us recently as well.
I was, the Netherlands.
Yeah,
Yes.
you were in the
Good
Netherlands.
times.
Sadly, you were not around for our Moonlight review in the hotel room.
Yeah, well, I would have loved to have been in a hotel room with you guys, but, you know.
Well, actually,
You're in
technically,
basement business now.
We're in basement business now, and we won't talk about the night after the party.
God.
There was a ton
Will
of
we?
people in a hotel room.
should we talk about that?
No.
Yeah.
Moving on.
I was not there.
No. Yeah.
But you requested this movie.
Yes.
I did.
So let this be a lesson to all the listeners out there.
Oh, God.
If you know us.
If you know us and you request a movie, chances are you will be in this room with us if you live in New York.
But I'm happy to be here.
We're so happy to have you.
Yay.
Yeah, thanks for coming along.
Of course.
For other people who want to get in touch with us and who want to request a movie with us, you
Sick
can.
transition.
I know you like
Sick
that.
transition, kid.
Yeah, you like that? I'm going to go park my car in Harvard Yard.
Don't know.
Oh, it's already starting.
You know what's funny is my transition had no reason for being.
But it was good.
Yeah, well, now we talked about it too much. And,
Nope.
I
Never can
feel-
talk about those transitions too
Now
much.
I feel
This.
awkward. You can reach us for the. Look at this amazing banter you could be a part of. You can
It goes
reach-
nowhere,
It
but-
goes nowhere. But if you want to be a part of it, you can contact us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com or on our website at onlymoviepodcast.com or hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod.
Or you can even leave us an iTunes review. That would be lovely.
Well, that would be lovely. That's not really contacting us. That's just giving us praise.
Listen, I guarantee you
because we asked
we'll
for
read it. We'll read that review.
We'll definitely read it. We'll take anything you can give us.
But we are very needy.
Actually, Matt, what do you think is the most controversial review we've ever done? Would it be
controversial?
Beast of No Nation, The Birth of a Nation, any other film with Nation?
Nation in it.
Yeah. What do you think the most controversial review we've done is?
I mean, maybe Entourage.
Entourage, yeah,
No
definitely
kidding.
a lot of people.
I don't know.
Well, it turns out our Fantastic Beast episode got us a lot of feedback about how mugglish, I guess we are.
Were we
and
bad?
We're how idiotic we are on the franchise. It turns out that Harry Potter is beloved by a lot of people.
I didn't even know that. Julie, did you know that?
I did.
Oh, shit.
Because I'm wicked smart.
Yeah.
There you go. But you just started reading the books as well, right?
I did. I just finished the first book.
Was this
Woohoo.
in anticipation of seeing the Fantastic Beasts, or was it just?
No, I finally just was like getting on the bandwagon. It's about time, right?
Yeah, 12 years late. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, we're
But so it turns out a lot of people love Harry Potter and don't love what we have to say about the franchise.
It's just sad.
People,
I liked the movie.
people threatening to leave us 1-star reviews based on our opinions.
I liked it. I said go see it.
But this is what Laura had to say, who tweeted at us and then wrote us an email. Hey, guys, love the Fantastic Beast episode, and I always love it when Jess is a guest. So,
Shout out to Jess Tucker.
Laura also requested us Nightcrawler much earlier, and so we've been looking for a guest for that, so maybe it'll be Jess again.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. But being a Harry Potter book fan, I got to admit, there was a few times I wish I was there to offer some points on the novel side of things. You guys discussed how the movie had two different stories and seemed to change from Fantastic Beast to Grindelwald and where he'll be in the sequel. She goes on to explain how the Grindelwald story is really big in the Harry Potter universe, and it's something that's always alluded to, and she was really annoyed at the fact that the last two movies didn't elaborate on that. So,
the last two before Beasts.
the last two Harry
The last
Potter.
two Harry Potter, or Harry Potter 7, 1, and 2.
Yeah, I'm guessing we all know my feelings on 7A, which I think is a load of crap. But so
Wow.
the promise But Laura goes on, so that the promise of the wizarding history that we've always heard about will actually be explored now really excites me and brings it back to what I know and love from the original stories. Rather than rehashing a Voldemortish storyline and making a kind of Thanos situation, as you put it. But I totally understand without the proper context why it would come across like that to you guys. As always, love the podcast, so keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, all right, no, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, she's basically, and maybe we should have had a book reader in the room.
Well, not only that, but okay, I'm gonna put on my
Oh God.
I'm gonna put on my Shahir hat for a second.
Oh God.
That is true.
Terrible
and,
accent,
and it
by the
makes,
way.
I'm not even going to try to do your accent. That is all true what she said, and thank you again for writing in. The thing I think I have an issue with, just in specifically in Fantastic Beasts and the way they it's the way they sort of handled the stories, sort of mixing and almost not mixing until the very end, and then also, this is a Shahir problem that he has with the Marvel MCU. I think MCU does this a little bit better because it does it in a shorter or longer it does it in a different time frame. I just want, if it's that important, right? I want it to seem that important in the film that I'm making. And I understand it's the first one.
Right, but yeah, it just kind of comes perfunctory at the end of the movie.
Because when your movie's called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, that's what my brain is sort of on. Like, oh, here's Newt. He's going to do this shit.
Does he not find the beast?
Oh, he finds a beast.
Oh, okay, good.
But we don't want to reveal any spoilers for Fantastic Beasts. Please go see the movie and then listen to our review for any spoilers there.
But there's a secondary story which is apparently going to be the more important story throughout the rest of these films,
and we've already alluded to.
Yeah,
so they're playing the long game.
They're playing the long game.
They're playing the franchise building.
They're playing
game.
the franchise building game,
Yeah.
but not in and maybe they do it better in the books, and it's great that they spread this throughout all of the original Harry Potter books. But I was sort of told, especially even the advertisements for this film said a great place to start. Like if you've never seen or done anything Harry Potter, this is a great place to start.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Fantastic
Because
Beasts?
it's a prequel?
It's a prequel.
I guess? Yeah,
I don't know.
okay.
Anyway, I'm glad that there is context, and I'm glad that probably means that it will go in a better direction than I originally anticipated. So thank you for the information. I just think that they could have made the level of importance, I guess, in the storytelling in the film sort of equal.
You're supposed to have patience, Matt Kroll.
And this is
You've met me, right?
Yeah.
We've worked together.
You want immediate satisfaction.
No.
No. Matt Kroll is a guy who's willing to sit through 12 Marvel movies to get
I
to.
was going to say, I think it's all
If
just
presented correctly.
It's subjective, right?
Right. So thank you, Laura, for that email. Laura's, I believe, is from Australia, and we've been getting a lot of emails from Australia recently.
Yay.
So we're not sure what's going on in Australia, but we're glad to have you on board.
Keep them coming because we all know Shahir is from New Zealand, and that just makes me feel good.
Yeah, well, I could tell you the long history, but no, I am a big fan of Australian cinema, and what I would love to do is talk about a couple of my favorite Australian movies at some point, if we could.
If only you had a platform.
If only I had a platform to talk about movies.
Well, we are going to talk specifically about one movie. We've been dancing around it.
Yeah, we're the only podcast talking about Manchester by the Sea.
Yes.
And Julie, you specifically reached out to us and said, I really want to talk about this movie.
Yes. True. All true. I've seen it twice now in the theater.
Ooh.
Wow.
Hey, I'm prepared.
Yeah.
I think it's because it haunted me for days afterwards.
Really?
And I really wanted to talk about it with
Okay.
anyone and everyone.
Well,
Oh,
we're
wow.
here for you.
Yeah.
Well, tell us how you sort, because this is not a widely released film at this point.
Yes,
but
true.
it just won the National Board of Review's Film of the Year. It's highly touted to be an Oscar contender this year.
97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, as it should be.
Let's get into that.
Wow.
Here we go. But so tell us how you saw it and what your general thoughts about it, or if you knew any films by Kenneth Lonergan before that, or
I had seen You Can Count on Me. I
Yeah.
love him. I love his writing style.
yeah,
And I followed the film festivals. So I had heard about it from Sundance
Yeah.
at the beginning of this year.
a
and
lot
then
of recognition there.
TIFF.
Yeah.
And, I pay attention for TIFF every year. And then I'm like, okay, what's first?
Yeah.
And I kind of love Casey Affleck.
Right?
Kind of a fangirl about him. So
Are you a big fan of The Assassination of Jesse James?
I am.
I love that movie, and I think he's amazing in it.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite
Can I
films.
also say Gone Baby Gone?
Gone Baby Girl Gone. Which
I know.
is
It's like, yeah.
the two Ben Affleck movies.
Gone Baby Gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah, I think
So-
I would venture to say, I think it's the best movie Ben Affleck's made.
I agree. Way better than The Town.
Way better than The Town.
And
better,
Argo,
better than
Argo, fuck
Yeah.
yourself. No, I love Argo.
It's
I love
good.
Argo.
It's good, but
good.
Gone Baby Gone is really good.
Really good.
Yeah,
And it stands the test of time. If you go, I've gone back and watched it recently, and it's still just as good.
yeah. Argo, I think, is a very entertaining movie, but
Mm-hmm.
it actually doesn't quite. It didn't hold up for me the first time I watched it, and it doesn't quite hold up the second time I
How
watched
does
it.
something not hold up the first time you watch it?
We can
Isn't it sort of you need to watch it again to determine if it holds
No,
up?
I have a really specific thing about Argo, which is that we're not talking about Argo, but
We are. We're
but
literally doing that right now.
Here's the thing about Argo. Is watching Argo, I felt that the storylines that they were presenting me were false, and that was verified. Like the things that they actually did in the film were false.
That's
It
fine.
felt very Hollywood.
It never said this is a documentary.
At the end of the film, they showed side by side pictures of the people that they were representing.
Sure.
And the thing is the story is so different from what actually happened that it is kind of egregious.
Is the story better?
And the problem, no, the problem is
entertainment.
Yeah.
the problem is, and I have no problem with movies taking liberties with their story. I have no problem if you present me something false. The problem is that watching it, I felt like this was false. Like I felt.
Well,
like
technically, that's just not you doing your research beforehand.
What? Why?
Because if you're saying it presented a film that then felt to you as if it was false, so then you did your research and then you realized it was false.
And what I'm saying is that I didn't believe what had happened, and if the film had convinced me that was what happened, I would have been okay with that. Because even if it wasn't true, what I'm saying is, even watching it, I didn't feel like it happened.
It felt sensationalized.
Yeah, it felt like they were kind of elevating the stakes beyond what they were. That's Argo.
Yeah, bottom line, Casey Affleck wasn't in it, so he's the better Affleck. And
Wow.
so
Wow.
Better Affleck.
Yeah.
Wow.
I am a big Ben Affleck fan. I do like Ben Affleck a lot.
You're going against Batman at this point. That's
clearly.
dangerous.
So you were curious about this film.
Yes.
You out of Sundance. You'd heard about it at TIFF. You're a big Casey Affleck fan. You'd
All
seen
true.
You Can Count on Me.
Yep. I didn't see Margaret, which is sad, but
I've
that's
seen
'cause-
Margaret.
and I heard it was so good, but because it went through such issues with legal issues, and that's cut in 2 different cuts, right?
Yeah, for those who don't know, Kenneth Lonergan's second film, Margaret, I think it's pronounced correctly because it's based on some Greek myth or something like that, went through, it took 7 years for him to release the actual cut of that film, and he fought with the studio for years because they released a 90-minute cut of that movie in theaters very, very shortly, but then he released a 3-hour cut of that movie. And the 3-hour cut was hailed as a masterpiece by critics, but it was never seen because it was never widely distributed.
Yes.
You can get it on Blu-ray, and I urge you to get it. I think Martin Scorsese went to bat for Kenneth Lonergan. It was a very
I think he funded. I don't want to speak.
funded the 3-hour
He
cut.
had something to do with getting that out, the director's cut out.
So basically, this is
We're in a post-truth world or post-fact
Yeah.
world, so we
If
can
I
you can
say
say
it
whatever
right,
you want.
Yeah, I'll say it here. It'll be true. Great.
There's a New Yorker article about the whole debacle around Margaret.
I read that. It's a very good article.
A very good article. It's it is a remarkable movie. I've seen it. And I would urge everyone to see it. It is a long haul kind of movie, though. It is 3 hours, and it's so it kind of has that epic length, but it's about small, intimate moments. So it's a kind of odd thing. But it's one of those films that if you watch it in its totality, it has the effect I think it's designed to have. So Manchester by the Sea. We're now at the third Kenneth Lonergan film. What did you think? Or
I loved it. I loved the structure of it, from like the screenplay to also how it was told, how the story weaved in and out of past and present. I thought was just brilliant. Like it really pulls you in, and you're going along not knowing as an audience why he is the way he is, and then you get told slowly in pieces. I think it really added so much to it that it actually then the anticipation you're feeling as you're learning about it then stays with you as such a deep sense of mourning and tragedy and
Julie,
wonderful.
I want to come back to you. Matt, could you tell us the synopsis of the film? Just so
Yes. I have it right here. This is the IMDb synopsis. An uncle is forced to take care of his teenage nephew after the boy's father dies.
That's
brief and terrible.
brief and
We always give IMDb shit. They do have a longer synopsis
They
that they do right.
Yeah.
But I love the 1 to 2 sentence synopsi. They're wonderful.
it kind of what.
But they always use the weirdest pronouns or the weirdest
Yeah.
the uncle.
boy.
Yeah.
The boy.
It's like, what?
The synopsis actually sounds like what was that Todd McCarthy film? Win-Win. Did you guys see that about
No.
the guy who has to take over? Paul Giamatti has to look after
the
a wrestler.
wrestling?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I never saw it. I heard it was brilliant though.
It kind of feels like that. And Todd McCarthy directed Spotlight, which Matt and I have a long history about. Anyway.
Wonderful film.
Yeah, it is an amazing film.
Thank
is it
you.
not?
Thank you, Shahir. I feel like
abs-
this is going to be the only time we agree today. So
It possibly is. I adore Spotlight, and I've watched that 3 times since Matt and I have had our conversation. I love it more every time.
I'll just say yuck.
By the way, just curiosity, there's a website that rates truth in movies. Selma got 100% accuracy.
Whoa!
And Spotlight got a 91% accuracy.
Okay.
Or something along those
Well,
lines.
I mean, look, I think accuracy in a film is not the thing you should, unless it's a documentary, be really 100% shooting for. It's great when it happens, but I don't think like the most accurate, although I haven't seen Selma. I've heard Selma's wonderful.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
But as far as Spotlight goes, just because it's 91% accurate doesn't mean it's good. Like that's not That's not a metric you can do.
Listeners, go back and listen to our Spotlight episode. But Julie, tell us. Okay, so you were completely engaged with the story. So Casey Affleck plays this. He's a janitor, and I was when I watched this, I kind of joked that this is like the second of Matt Damon's janitorial trilogy.
Oh, I didn't even connect that.
Oh,
That's
the janitor
amazing.
trilogy. What's gonna happen next?
First he had the genius, then he had this like sunken person, and maybe the third one will be the old
space janitor.
Space janitor.
But it has to be a different person playing the space janitor.
Do they have another brother?
No. Matt Damon has. Is he an only child, or is
I
he?
don't know. Maybe Matt Damon could. I mean, I'd take it.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is this film was going to be directed by Matt Damon at one point,
True.
and he and John Krasinski,
Yes.
from The Office fame, took the film to Kenneth Lonergan, and they were gonna they pitched it to him.
Yep, as a screenwriter.
And they were gonna direct it, but at some point in the writing process, they kind of decided, well, Kenneth Lonergan was the person to direct it.
I think once he had finished it,
Yeah.
they realized that this was wholly his, and he needed to be the person also taking the reins.
Which is kind of an amazing thing.
It
and
is.
Then, and then they cast, and then, they pretty much divorced themselves entirely from the picture, apart from taking a producing credit.
I think Matt Damon had to do The Martian, so scheduling as far as acting for the acting portion
Right.
of it.
Right. And so, which I think is kind of a fairly but then of course they brought in Ben Affleck's younger brother to play the film. Now that's not entirely unwarranted. I mean, Casey Affleck is
that's how Hollywood works, right?
Yeah, but he's a very accomplished actor.
He is.
So it's about this janitor who's kind of sunken away from the world, who's very quiet.
He's removed. You can't tell why he's so removed at first. He's going through his day without really connecting with any of the people he works on their apartments, right?
Yeah. In a series of very comedic kind of
And the women hit on him. Like, it's just so bizarre.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, and I was gonna say, and then he goes and you see him drinking at the bar, and he can't really like speak to that girl either. And then but then all of a sudden he gets angry at those two men, which I was very confused. This is not really the point, but were they supposed to be a couple? Those two men?
I don't know.
Was that relevant? Was that?
I don't know.
relevant?
I think it was meant to sort of be.
Was he homophobic in that moment?
I think that was one of the things, and we'll talk more about this when we get into sort of spoiler territory, but I think that was sort of one of those, not misleading, but like, okay, this guy's angry, but it's setting it up in a situation where he could be angry at 9,000 different things,
a red herring.
and you don't know what he's angry about.
Right. You know he's angry, but you don't know why. Mm-hmm.
But again, we'll talk about that in a moment.
Jumping over to Matt, what did you think of the movie?
I thought, as I look over at my notes, that it was.
You have to look at your notes to remember what you thought about it.
I want to talk about what I liked about it. Obviously, I liked it a lot, and it was hard for me to separate opinions from basically like the actual content of the film and what the film was versus how familiar it all felt to me. I grew up in southern New Hampshire. I went to school in Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. I spent a shit ton of time in Boston. Mm-hmm. I don't know if my accent has ever come out on.
We've talked about it before.
We've talked about it, but like, I used to slip in and out of it a ton when I first moved to New York, and I've sort of worked on sort of getting it more baseline because it does.
When you get drunk, does it come out?
Sometimes, but more so when I talk to my father.
Oh yeah.
My girlfriend will be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like when I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
But no, like I knew, like, God, almost every character in this film, I knew someone. Exactly, like I was close with a couple people that were very similar, and maybe they'd gone through a tragedy or maybe not, but like it felt so much like home to me that the entirety of it just hit me like a fucking truck emotionally. And I went and saw it at the Alamo Drafthouse again. If you guys have,
you get a milkshake this time?
No,
milkshakes.
I just got a water. Damn it.
Stop it! You did that on purpose.
No, I didn't. And it was a great movie-going experience. I will say, if you're in Brooklyn, go to this fucking theater. Like, it was the clearest I'd fucking seen a movie. Like, the opening shot of them on the boat or whatever.
Did they just reopen that or something?
They just opened it here. This is the first one in New York.
I saw it pop up on Fandango, and I'm like, what is this theater?
I don't know if it's just because it's new projectors or this movie was shot so well, but like, the first image came up, and I was like,
I'm home.
Well,
it felt.
I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but the cinematography.
It was wonderful. It was
amazing.
Wonderful. And I know a lot of people. Some people that I'd spoken to had an issue with the score, and not so much the score, but how it was used.
Oh, really?
I thought the score was beautiful, and the moments that they used it, especially the ones where it sort of juxtaposes where you feel like it should be. Exactly. I was like, this works wonderful.
Yeah. Because you would jump between current pop and classic music. I thought that was brilliant.
Thomas Albinoni.
And then the timeline jumping, Julie, that you sort of talked about, it was so funny because when it started happening and when I sort of realized what was happening, I this is not the movie's fault, but I was like, oh, they're Westworlding it. I'm like, this is what they're doing.
Oh, I haven't seen that show yet.
It's like 3 different timelines and it jumps and you never know which timeline you're in. So I don't know.
No spoilers. I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's very clear.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was also clear though, because back to Casey Affleck, I thought that should we always do that? He was such a different person immediately in the past scenes. Like you could just feel like he was lighter.
No, you knew this was much more clear than Westworld's time jumping was. But that was just something that I was like, oh, this is a thing now.
It does seem trendy, to be fair.
Yeah. Shahir, buddy.
So
you're gonna be the villain.
Well, one thing is that Matt texted me right before I was about to walk into this movie.
I poisoned him.
And he was like,
no.
I love this movie. It's so good. It's amazing. And I was like, okay, cool. And the last time that happened was...
Why did you do that?
The last time that it happened...
It's all part of the plan, Julie.
Was,
just let it go.
Was the movie Moonlight, which I 100% agreed with him. I walked out of that movie completely flabbergasted, and I thought this was an incredible film. And I might have been a little tired, but the thing is... I've seen You Can Count on Me. I've seen Margaret. I think he's an amazing writer, an amazing director as well. So I was kind of primed for this movie to be good, and obviously there was a lot of hype around it. For me, the problem is that I was a little unmoved by the film. I think it's structurally all there. Like, I think all the moments that are supposed to hit did kind of work for me, but ultimately, I think my issue with this film is that it essentially plays one note, and it plays that note really, really beautifully, which is that it is a film about grief, but it is a singular vision about grief. And I felt that story of grief didn't really go anywhere for me to really kind of move through this movie. Again, Casey Affleck is very good in this movie. The writing is very good in this movie. Michelle Williams is great in this movie. I love Kyle Chandler when he pops up in this movie. I think...
What about Matthew Broderick? Do you like Matthew Broderick?
I do like that.
Dude, people in the theater started laughing when he came on.
Well, that's the gimmick now. Even in Fantastic Beasts, people have a visceral reaction to Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is just like...
Well, the thing is, Matthew Broderick's been in all of Kenneth Lonergan's films. So
has he?
yeah,
I remember
you'd
that.
know that you'd know that if you knew that, but people... I mean, I could see people like, and what the fuck? Like,
but what? Why can't Matthew Broderick be in a movie?
100% can, but the problem is when you're so recognizable and you take a bit part, it is just, if you're deep in the movie, you don't see, hey, new character I'm going to be introduced to. You see, oh, Matthew Broderick. Wait, Matthew Broderick's in this movie? I didn't know that. Was that announced? Okay, wait, and I'm back.
Let me put it to you this way. In Margaret. Matt
like
Damon is in that
pizza.
movie, and he's not advertised for being in that movie at all. And he's got a big part in that movie, but he pops up out of nowhere.
And I bet you people are like, oh, and I bet you it takes people out of it. I'm just saying.
It takes a second to just be like, okay.
It doesn't break anything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there is that disjointed moment of I'm in the story. Crap, an actor I recognize. Okay, wait, I'm back. Like,
Right.
And he's also sometimes like he's a caricature of himself. Like Matthew Broderick is known as a certain type of thing.
He'll never quite break Ferris Bueller, even though he's a very accomplished actor.
And he was good in this the
was
small
great.
part he had. He's
Yeah.
really great. And they also did a weird thing with the camera where they like purposely panned him.
Yeah.
Last in that scene, and you're like, oh hey.
Matthew Broderick.
So I generally I think it's all there, but this is one of those cases where I feel like the hype isn't quite. To me, the hype didn't quite live up to what the movie actually was, and I just found that I wasn't that moved by the whole story. There's an interesting. I don't agree with this, by the way, but there's an interesting article going around, a review at the New York Times of this film, which gets into a conversation about white privilege, and towards the end of it, and I was kind of like, I wonder if that's the thing that's bothering me, but I don't think it is because I did.
What's the thing? What's the discussion?
Yeah.
Well, the discussion is that well, we should talk about it in spoilers, but there's a question of that this is a community. If I'm paraphrasing the thesis of that article, it is that Casey Affleck's character has chosen basically moving into the working poor from a well-established working middle class. And the idea, because he's become
Julie and I both did the thing that like animals do when they're confused. We did like the head turn and the eyes up.
Well,
Because I didn't read it that way.
He was never.
I thought he was always.
He was
working
always
class.
working class.
No, but yes, he's always working class, but he's moved into the working poor. Like
he's punishing himself.
He's like as a form of punishment.
Okay.
And the thing is that the article points to is that he doesn't think the idea is that these people never believe that they're anything but middle class, like they're middle class people, but they own homes, they have boats, that sort of thing, so the article kind of gets into, and there is one very specific thing that I did kind of like, I think I felt it when I watched it. I don't necessarily agree with the full thrust of the New York Times.
We can talk about when we get to it. Just call it out.
Yeah, I think everyone knows what you guys.
I don't.
I'm not following.
But don't say it yet.
Okay,
we get there chronologically.
I don't necessarily, because I have a thing which is that don't review the film that you want to see, review the film that you actually saw. And I think, again, for me, the problem isn't necessarily that the thing that the New York Times article built up. The problem for me is that I think this film has one note about grief, and it's a very interesting note, and it's a very powerful note, and it's played very, very beautifully, but it doesn't move beyond that in a way that I think is compelling.
What other notes would you want it to hit?
So
because I have a theory about the grief thing, but I was curious, what else would you want that if you could make this movie better, what would you do?
So the thing,
and why does it need to be?
It doesn't. It doesn't need. Yeah, that's the thing. If it works for you guys, then that's fine. And obviously this is working for a lot of people. I'm saying for me personally,
but I want to know how to make it work for you.
So the one thing that I was never really clear about was Casey Affleck's, his name's Lee Chandler.
Yep.
His sense of who he was at the moment of devastation. Like, I felt like there's a single moment in this film, which we will only reveal in spoilers, that reveals
why he is the way he is.
Why he is the way he is. And I didn't really get a sense of the transformation that happened at that moment. I felt like he just became that character, who he is, very, very suddenly. And it wasn't too far from who he was to begin with.
I thought the exact opposite.
Really? Yeah. Well,
I thought there was a moment where you all of a sudden realize, oh, okay, this all makes sense. Everything he's done before, all of his actions, like his fighting and his being disconnected, they all come into light. And you also can tell that there's such a weight on him that you see kind of develop. You see the weight develop.
I think the thing is that
there was no weight on him before. He was kind of, honestly,
he was the life of the party.
He was the life of the party, and kind of like, and again, it's not that these people, I know people, I grew up with people like this, but like, if you peel back the layers of life of the party, like you're an alcoholic, you're not doing things right. Like there's a ton of so that sort of transformation for me, I mean, just, I don't know. Well, again, it's hard to talk about. We'll get into it.
I can see how it could work. I never really connected with that transformation. I never really connected with the idea that there's also another scene later on in the movie where he reconnects with his wife, with his ex, and
oh, that street scene. Lord help us.
It's a very, very good scene, but I also felt like I didn't have enough context, and I didn't feel like there was much that happened for him at the end of that scene. I'm trying not to give away spoilers.
Fun fact, and I'll talk about it when we hit that scene. I've had that moment happen in my life before, out of the fucking blue.
Yeah.
In basically a town exactly fucking like that. Like it's
you're trying so hard to avoid someone and then they just appear out of nowhere.
It's uncanny. But anyway,
so it might be there on a second viewing. I do agree that this is a very powerfully made film, and I think the writing is very, very good. I just found that the whole milieu of everything, by the time I got to the end frame, I was going, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard other people say this, so I can understand.
Yeah.
I just kind of, when people say it, I feel sad for you because
I might be dead inside.
Yeah, you might have no soul.
I've said all of those things before.
Yeah.
I just want you to feel that because I just thought it was so well done that I felt.
Trust me, I've certainly felt that in movies, and one thing is that I'm always looking for is that.
Right.
I just didn't think that was here for me in this movie.
And fair enough.
So something you said about the working class and the sort of would you call it inherent, not race, what was it? The article said it.
The article was talking about white privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Something,
and also, can we say white male privilege? Hey,
yes.
Hey,
nasty
woman in the room.
Yes.
This is the other thing too, and this is sort of a weird. I don't know how big of an elephant in the room. It could be a very baby elephant. But we had talked about Birth of a Nation and Nate Parker's whole trial and tribulation about just his accusations.
Are we bringing up Casey Affleck's past?
We kind of have to because
if we're going to talk about Nate Parker the way we had to talk about Nate Parker.
This is also it's a very fucking similar and even to the point of
That's not very similar.
Well, I'm not saying
okay.
the situation,
It's not
but I'm saying
we don't care about the actual. The point we want to make here is we don't care about the actual details of
What
the case.
happened, right.
But what we want to talk about is the way in which the case becomes part of the narrative of the film.
Yes.
not in the film, but around the film.
And is it unfair that clearly somehow it's sliding off of Casey Affleck and it did not slide off?
I mean,
of
this is
Nate
That was my point. So for those that don't know, Nate Parker was accused of was it
sexual assault.
Sexual assault, and then was acquitted. Whereas this is I think in 2010 this happened with Casey Affleck. He was accused of sexual harassment and he settled.
Yes,
Right.
with two women.
With two women, and there's tons of sort of proof. I mean, there's witnesses and like all this other shit and blah 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 blah. So.
But he vehemently denies it, which I find very interesting choice of words.
Weird.
Again, we're not interested in the actual
I know, sorry.
the actual
But
case.
this is the interesting thing about it is now because and an article I was reading says this thing about because Casey Affleck is now surrounded by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Reporters don't bring up
that's completely
the other stuff because Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are right there. They're not going to be like, "Hey, Ben, your brother did this 10 years or 5 years ago."
He's also just so much more protected as a person in Hollywood.
Nate
Nate Parker
was.
wasn't quite as protected.
He wasn't as established. He doesn't have the PR people. You know.
Again, we're
going off topic.
we don't know because we don't want to litigate those cases and we don't want to pretend like we know enough about those stories to talk about.
But we don't want to ignore the past.
And also, I mean, this is the day after Bernardo Bertolucci came. You know, it was revealed that Bernardo Bertolucci may have instigated and supported the rape of a woman in one of his films, The Last Tango in Paris by Marlon Brando. This is a story that's developing right now where they basically said that there was a scene where a rape was involved and they basically did it.
They raped her.
They raped her. And so
I know.
And so no, I guess again we're not like talking about the details of that case because it's like there's a lot of we don't know who's telling what,
right.
and we want to avoid the litigation story, but the thing is that we have to have that conversation about art from artists, and we had this conversation about Roman Polanski, about Woody Allen. So do we include that conversation? Is it fair to include that conversation about Casey Affleck in the milieu of this film? And does it, if we, for example, if we knew definitively that was the case and he was guilty of whatever, does it change our frame of reference for the way in which we view this film?
It didn't for me. And as a woman, it didn't.
And it doesn't for me. And it's funny because I feel like as opposed to being acquitting versus settling, one is admitting guilt and paying money for it. And the other one is not. So to have it,
technically settling is not admitting guilt.
Is it not?
No.
So we don't believe that Trump University was defrauding people.
But maybe not legalized, and that might be a nice way of doing it. But no one's paying money if they're 100% innocent.
True. But also, people pay money to get away from it so they don't have to reveal the truth, I think is the actual.
Right. So, yes, there's one step away from admitting.
Yes.
Right. But we had to temper our whole conversation of Birth of a Nation around that, around the elephant in that room. The difference there is that was difficult was that what felt apparent was that the way in which that Birth of a Nation story was coming about felt like it was a PR move to try and
sabotage the movie.
I feel like it was
interesting.
Well, think about it this way: that case happened over 20 years ago, and Nate Parker has been an actor for that entire time.
Is this the same thing with Selma? Isn't there some theory that what's his name, Harry Weinstein? Is that his name? Harvey Weinstein sabotaged Selma. There's some sort of story out there. Anyway,
we're all part of the. What's important to note is that
post-truth
is that there's a PR narrative, and I guess what's interesting in the case of Manchester by the Sea, although it is starting to come out, is that there's this notion that there might be a PR battle against Casey Affleck in this case.
Well, here's the interesting part. And this is after I read the article sort of comparing these two things and how no one's talking about the Casey Affleck thing and everyone's talking about the Nate Parker thing. I do think there is obviously Casey's more protected, but also while it is I feel an unjust attack on, or not, I don't know how to put it, but it shouldn't affect the movie itself. I feel like Birth of a Nation is more affected because that entire movie is Nate Parker. He wrote it. He directed it. He started it. That whole thing is that's him.
It's also
whereas Casey Affleck in this is just the lead actor.
Absolutely.
But
I think that's why it I didn't
And
initially.
you don't see Casey Affleck when you're watching this movie. Like, I can separate the artist in a movie from the man, right? So I'm not going to put him on a pedestal as a man, and I'm always going to bring up this possible past issue, right?
Right.
But I'm going to see that movie knowing that he's good and a good actor, and I want to see that story the way it is without that.
Michael Jackson had a lot of good music.
Same. And Tiger Woods is still a great golf player.
But the thing is,
But a terrible man, probably.
The other reason that I think that the reason we kind of think about frame it differently is that I do inherently think Birth of a Nation wasn't a great movie.
Yeah.
That's the issue, right?
And this is a more of a prestige film. So I think the reason we're willing to do that, play this game, is that we're more willing to forgive good art than we are to
and you don't want to take down the whole ship, right? Because Kenneth Lonergan is such a great writer, and the screenplay is so great, and everyone else is so great.
But is that fair?
I don't know.
Is that fair?
Probably not.
Only because this isn't lauded as Casey Affleck did everything in this fucking movie. Like he's a big part of it, but he's not he's not 90% of it. The advertising is not like
maybe that's
just him. Like
maybe it's the marketing that's the issue.
I think marketing is always the issue.
I remember this is all PR.
It is.
I think it's worth mentioning this whole topic and then moving on.
And then we can move on.
Yeah.
So let's go into spoilers if we're happy with that.
The whole movie is spoilers, so we got to move on.
All right, here we go. So the movie opens up and we see a young Lee Chandler and a boy on a boat with someone else driving. It turns out to be his older brother's Joe, and they're doing these whole jokes about how he's going to throw him in the water and have the sharks get him. And you kind of get this feeling of like, oh, this is this is sort of a loving family unit, and like everything's all good. And then you cut to the janitorial stuff that we were talking about before. And again, the way this movie time jumps, it doesn't like announce that it's time jumping. It's very like this could be any time, and we don't quite understand. And then eventually you start.
But
getting
you feel
the
that it's different. Something's different.
Yes.
Right.
So he's going through. Lee Chandler is now he's basically an unappreciated handyman in Quincy. And again, locations of this movie, for me personally, I've partied, I've been to nearly almost every place in this movie. So I'm just like, God damn it. Like, it's all true. But
for someone who isn't from there, it still felt very universal. I'd like to add that.
Okay, good. No. And that's, I'm glad. See, I can't say that.
Right. You can't see through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shahir, was it like how you grew up?
Is it like New Zealand?
It's exactly like New Zealand. We run through the snow in our Hobbit outfits exactly the same way as they did in this movie.
Your Hobbit outfits.
It's the farthest from home you've ever been.
Yeah.
So apparently Lee ignores a woman who's kind of, well, not ignores,
He doesn't acknowledge that it happened.
Well, no, what was it? So the woman's like, okay, so you got to fix the shower. He's like, well, I could run the shower and...
Oh, that woman. I thought you meant the initial woman who hits on him.
So there's a woman who hits on him, or kind of hits on him, but like says something like she's attracted to her handyman over the phone in the other room.
She does that purposely loud, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
And what I love about that is this idea that she treats him as a lower class person than she is.
Yes.
You know, like I can have this conversation where, and she says over the phone, I think I want to fuck my handyman.
Yeah.
And he's like standing
like
in the
he isn't there.
And he's also at the exact same moment, like trying to fix her toilet.
He's taking her
scrubbing
shit,
his hands,
which is full of shit.
Yeah,
and she's like, this is so gross. And like, there's this kind of sense of, well, he might still have sex with me. And I love the line that comes out at the end of this. Can I give you a tip? And he's like, what do you mean? Like a suggestion?
Yeah. He has no idea where this is going. Like, he's standing there like, oh.
What I actually did really like about this movie was those kinds of like awkward conversations that happen, and conversations where like, it kind of they go off the rails in a way that's very unmovie-like.
It's very real.
It feels so real.
Yeah, every
I don't know if it's real. It feels written to me, but it's very unmovie-like.
I thought it all felt so conversational and like real worldy to me. Like every little bit of like nonsense.
And all the like little mistakes, right? Like the phone isn't working.
Yeah.
His cell phone isn't working. You can't hear him. I don't know, all these moments.
Are we going to okay, let's just do this.
Yeah,
and he get out the car.
We can jump.
And like, you know, he opens the door and Casey Affleck decides to accelerate at that moment. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? I think you said we were going to go.
Right.
It's just like this.
They can't find the car, you know, after the funeral home.
The thing is like having made films, you know, like that is the kind of thing that, you know, like you can't just, they all feel like scenes that are accidents, you know, like those things shouldn't happen.
Right.
But in order for you to make those, you have to write those scenes, you have to block those scenes. So it's kind of amazing that the film is filled with accidents that they've kind of planned out.
And they feel natural.
And again, I have to go back to the if grief is the overall sort of umbrella that this movie is, all of these things, like when the cell phone's not working or when he accelerates and his nephew's in the car and they like don't leave the thing you just talked about, or even when they can't find the car, like these are all everyday annoyances that happen to real people. But when you're in a state of grief, it is so fucking exacerbated where like that's a huge fucking thing because you're on the edge of sort of your emotional cliff or whatever you want to do.
Totally.
And the tiniest thing is going to just make you blow up. So like I do feel like showing these moments in this particular sort of grief umbrella, hashtag grief umbrella, I think was very powerful.
I think we've got a title for this episode.
I also would like to add though that I think like because as you're amongst tragedy, you also realize that life also just goes on.
Oh, life don't give a fuck.
It doesn't stop,
Yeah.
you know? Like, the car won't open. Like, he can't get the car to unlock. And, you know, Lucas still wants to... Lucas, that's not his name. That's his real name. Patrick still wants to, like, have sex, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. So we'll get to who Patrick is and why he's boning. But no,
Basement.
so he boning basement
Basement
business.
Basement business.
So Lee gets word over the phone that his older brother, Joe, who is played by the coach,
Kyle Chandler.
Right? Yeah.
Kyle Chandler.
Yep.
He can get it.
I once sat next to him.
He can get it.
He can get it? Wait a minute.
What can he get?
What can he get?
Like,
Insert name that here.
okay, that's fine.
I once sat next to him on a plane and everyone was like really...
Did you give it to him?
I did give it to him. I
okay.
gave it to him
He got
hard.
it. He got it. Julie, he got
He
it.
got some New Zealand is what he got.
Oh, wait, was he supposed to give it to me or was I supposed to give it... Because
That's your choice.
Yeah.
I might have misinterpreted that whole scenario.
I don't know.
But anyway, everyone's...
Casey Affleck can also get it in that janitor outfit.
So you really put yourself in the shoes.
As he's like grieving, I'm like, yes.
Yes. Oh, he's in
Please.
pain. This is the perfect time.
Sorry, off track.
So Lee drives back to Manchester and to take care of the arrangements and whatnot. And then sort of a couple flashbacks here let us know that Joe, his brother, had heart trouble and was only going to live for a few years anyway. So this was not, he'd been in and out of the hospital. This was not an unforeseen thing. It's just like, oh, fuck, it just hits when it hits. Joe's wife was kind of a basket case. There's a scene in the hospital that she's just like, and maybe grief is affecting her in a different way too. But apparently as the story goes on, you learn that Joe's wife had a bunch of issues of her own and she was not handling this very well. And then also, that Lee is now far away and kind of distant from this family that in the opening scene on the boat was very like he was a part of. So he drives back to Manchester and we meet a teenage Patrick, his nephew, which is the sort of, this kid does a great job. What was his name? His real name is
Lucas
Lucas.
Hedges.
Yeah. First of all, shout out to Lucas Hedges because he fucking killed it. Now, again, I don't know. This is one of those things where he's a teenager, right? So maybe he just plays a teenager real fucking well.
Right.
But
it's in his wheelhouse.
yeah, he's not stretching that much, but he does it brilliantly.
He does. And to the point where my friend was like, I didn't really like him. He was kind of awkward. And I was like, that is
exactly the point.
Yep.
So you find out basically.
Shout out to Kate, by the way. She saw this movie with
he and Lee sort of have a bond, even if Lee doesn't quite know how to act around it. They've been very close for Patrick's entire life.
Right. It's clear that they're family.
Yes.
Right.
And then, people in town, it seems like once Lee's back in Manchester, they seem to know him, but like he's back for a couple days. He's trying to pick up some.
Chandler.
Yeah. He's kind of trying to pick up work and like no one wants to hire him. And you're like, what the fuck?
And you overhear someone be like, the story's not true.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's all these hints as to what happened.
Well, the picking up work thing comes up after there's a revelation that kind of centers around what this film's about, which is that his brother has left custody of the child to him. Right.
Yes.
Which brings up the big moment of the film.
Well, kind of, sort of. So they're back. Yes. Basically, they make the rounds, and Lee and Patrick. This is even before that they go to the lawyer's office. They're doing all the funeral arrangements, and it's just like he's in town for a couple days at this point, and that you basically see these beautiful interactions between Lee and Patrick.
They're like a comedy duo.
Yeah, but like a real life family comedy duo. Like this, all of it hits so fucking close to home.
And even for someone who's not from there, I'd like to keep adding.
And please do, because that's all I'm going to be saying the entire time. And then they butt heads a lot, but in sort of like these really nice, like real endearing and loving sort of ways that I've seen in like on screen in a while. Like, and again, I'm glad to hear, Julie, that you're saying like this is a thing that feels real anyway, because I didn't know in the moment if that was because it was a New England thing or a human thing.
I think it's a family thing,
Yeah.
a human family thing that you take out on your family whatever you you yell at them. They see every emotion.
Yeah.
Right.
And right before we go to the attorney to go over Joe's will, we kind of see a flashback of Lee with his previous wife, played by Michelle Williams. She was Jen on Dawson's Creek? Was that right?
She was Jen.
Yeah.
Look at
She's
that.
been around for a while.
That was her first thing. I'm always going to remember Dawson's Creek first because it came on after Buffy.
Jen was, by the way, like the worst character.
Was she? I don't even.
She was
I
so
watched season
annoying.
1 and 2.
So was Joey. The whole thing was kind of annoying.
Oh, no, you watch it now. It's brutal.
Yeah.
This is
But
the
I
only
loved it.
podcast about Dawson's Creek. No.
You heard it here first.
No. So you find out that, like, at some point, and you don't know why it's not like this anymore at this point, Lee was married to Randy with an I, and had 3 kids.
I had to look that up.
2 daughters.
Before I came on here.
2 daughters and a baby son, I want to say.
A little handsome little boy.
Yeah. And so we learned that, and then it seemed like it was going well at that time.
But obviously something happened.
Are we allowed to talk about each scene? Like, can I talk about that scene?
Yeah.
I just felt that.
No! Yes, of course.
Please. So I felt that that scene was so short, but in that small amount of time, you immediately know who these people are and what their relationship is, who Michelle Williams' character is. Mostly because Michelle Williams is brilliant, obviously.
Yes, she's very good.
And so I just felt like that bedroom scene just kind of solidifies everything that's then going to come, right? Because
So he comes home. He's a little bit wasted. She's sick. She's been taking care of the kids, but he comes home and the kids all love him.
Yeah,
but it's also he does one thing now that I'm a dad that I kind of like just really like. It's a big no-go zone, which is like she's just put the baby down and he picks the baby up, and I'm like, you dick.
Yeah.
You don't pick up that fucking kid. You put him down.
He's like, so I picked him up. He's not crying. It's fine. I'm good at this.
That's how you know he's like the 4th child.
Yeah.
Like, he's not really that adult when he's...
That's exactly it. He's a grown man child. You know, like he's like, how many beers did you have?
He calculates
He had 8.
Yeah.
He's like, well, it was over a 7-hour period, so...
1.73.
Yeah, exactly.
Repeating, of course.
Yeah. So that is a really, really good scene, and it is. And I remember the thing about the kind of structure of the film is that there is something I do want to say, which is that I think Kenneth Lonergan as a writer is an exemplary writer. He's a magnificent writer, but I think as a filmmaker, his blocking of scenes and his scene construction can be a little bit clumsy. And I don't know if it's purposely clumsy.
Was it in this one?
This one as well. I mean, there are scenes where like they're like the way in which the first scene where he goes to the morgue to find, to like explain what's happened to his brother is just really clumsily kind of cut together back and forth.
Wait, when he's actually looking at the body, or the one where he's standing in the hospital where he finds out?
Where he's standing in the hospital.
I thought standing in the hospital.
The scene with the morgue, which is just a single take, is beautiful. That is really stunning.
I agree.
I think, and I took it as anyway, the scene where he gets to the hospital and he's with his friend. I forget the friend's name. George. He was wonderful too in the film.
He was.
It's him and the doctor, and a doctor that's not like the normal doctor. The normal doctor is on sabbatical. No, on a maternity leave.
It's weird because they all know each other.
That's what that scene establishes, right?
They all know each other, but like I liked the way it was awkwardly sort of staged because in those moments of like, oh fuck, like nothing's real until he walked into that hospital. Like he knew it. I mean, I don't know what everyone's been through, but like you get to those points where you're like, and then when it hits you and it's real, like time doesn't seem like in real life it's moving correctly. You're just sort of going through the moments.
You don't know where to stand,
and you don't know where to stand. You don't know how to act. There's no proper social etiquette for those moments.
Right.
So I thought the awkwardness that these scenes were filmed in, when these moments of high sort of tension in that regard, felt very like made me feel the most a film or a scene, at least scene work, can make someone feel to get that sort of across.
Right. I guess the only thing I would say is that, I mean, there is a thing about that scene, which is that they all knew that the brother was going to die eventually, and so there's the thing that's awkward when you're watching it for the first time is that you don't really understand why that is, and so he's
why they're also calm.
Why they're also calm, and you don't quite understand the relationship between people at this point. So
yep.
Like
why does the doctor know? Why does Casey Affleck character's Lee know a doctor that isn't
and you
there?
don't know who he's talking about.
No,
you
do know because there's the flashback in the hospital. That doctor is there.
But that
you haven't seen that flashback.
You haven't seen that flashback.
He has that flashback while he's driving up. He's in the car, and that flashback happens.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't.
No, I think that
Because I was like,
is
when
that
the
hospital scene maybe split then? Because there's
There's a scene. No, because he goes into the elevator of the hospital, and then we see the scene of the flashback with Kyle Chandler, where we find out that he's going to die.
When he initially
And
arrives
it's
in the hospital, you haven't met.
You don't know Kyle Chandler.
Dr.
You-
Bethany.
I could have sworn it was the other way around, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
No, because it happens the way the transition happens is he gets into the elevator, the door
Goes
closes.
to the morgue?
No,
Or he's going to the morgue?
going to the morgue. The door closes, and then we see the flashback with Kyle Chandler.
Okay.
And I remember the thing was I remember when I was watching it, I was like, have I missed a scene? Because like
Right.
suddenly we're like, who are we talking about here?
Because when he initially arrives in the hospital, he asks, "Where's Dr. Bethany?"
Yeah,
and
and-
she says she's on maternity leave.
Right.
And you don't know as an audience, like, why does he know Dr. Bethany?
Exactly.
Because you don't know yet that the brother.
Maybe I just took it or I built it around in my brain that way because in sort of, and not that Manchester's a small town, but like
You've experienced this before.
but like in a way, like you kind of when you're in that
that was
sort
some
of
shade.
yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, Mister. In New Zealand, it's like this every fucking episode. One movie comes out. One.
Wait a minute. You just said that you blended this whole thing in your brain because you lived there.
No, well, I was getting to it, and then you gave me shade, and I had to fight back. What I'm saying
You
is,
didn't see that I had shade. Julie had to point it out to
I
you.
know because I was
He just
making
kept
a
moving
point.
along happily.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss.
Anyway, go ahead, Matthew Kroll.
So no, I think just because I took that moment as, oh, this is a small knit community and everyone just sort of knows everyone, and the fact that a doctor is not there who probably was dealing with this beforehand, that adds to the awkwardness of like, oh, here's two family, or a guy, a friend of the guy, an orderly or a nurse who knows the family intimately, and this other doctor that's random. So that ratchets the randomness up, and you're just like, okay, I don't know how to be human right now.
But it all leads to the fact that they have no, the brother played by Kyle Chandler has congenital heart disease, which is a degenerative disease, and is going to die eventually. They basically find out, well, you've got 10 years potentially left in your life.
5.
And so they've kind of always known that this was coming.
Yeah, which
Right.
made the whole thing a little more interesting for me as well. So then, back into the timeline of the movie that's going on. Lee and Patrick go to the attorney's office, and first bomb drops of Joe has left custody of Patrick to Lee.
Right.
Dun, dun, dun.
And Lee's like, no.
Well, he says I can't. He says I can't do this because I live in a 1-bedroom in Boston, and the lawyer's like, well, I can't believe that that your brother
Joe didn't talk to you about this.
didn't explain this to you, and B, there is
moving funds, and he's like set everything up.
He set everything up so you can do this.
It's kind of clear to me in this moment how the lawyer's sort of talking about it, that like Joe's plan, weirdly enough, was probably to try to save
yes,
Lee.
I think it was purposely like to save him from his grief, to get him out of it.
And we see that throughout the film, which one of the things I really did like about this film was this kind of understated sense that Joe wants to help Lee out of his funk, which is the funk,
Which we find out now.
which is we're about to find out now.
Tell us what the funk is.
The funk is Julie.
Julie, tell us what the funk is.
I just lost my breath because I just think that scene when he's in the lawyer's office, when it jumps between the lawyer's office and what we find out to be the fire that devastates the house and kills all of their children, is just so devastating because you watch him get so much more agitated each moment in that attorney's office as you as the audience also become so terrified because you know the moment that he's walking down that street to leave his house to go to get whatever he's getting at the
He was
store.
getting beer.
And diapers.
Beer and
Life's
Story of my
essentials.
life right now.
You know that something's coming. You just know that it's all going to go wrong.
And the scene sets it up beforehand. Him and his buddies are all partying in a basement.
The ping pong scene.
Yeah, the ping pong scene. Michelle Williams walks down and screams at him.
Yeah.
And
Which-
then kicks them all out. And
Again,
then-
Michelle Williams had 6 scenes in this movie, I think. I think I counted.
Yeah.
And in those 6 scenes, she's a fully developed woman, and it's
Yeah.
amazing.
She's a
because
human being.
She comes down those stairs, and it's just like everyone knows that woman.
Yeah.
Everyone's been there. Yeah, exactly.
But you find out that basically, and through this, I forget if the flashbacks when the flashbacks eventually after as the fire happens, Michelle Williams is rescued, but the children are not.
Yeah.
And I forget if you find out the full statement.
You don't.
When do you find out the statement
When
at the
he's
police
in the
office?
police, when he's in police,
No, I know, but is that still this? I know we're
Is it still
timeline
part of
jumping,
this
audience.
flashback?
Yeah, is it part of this flashback? Is he still in the lawyer's office when we are now in the police station?
Oh, I can't remember.
Doesn't matter. Really, it doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
really matter.
So we
Yeah.
find out through a flashback, he recounts the tale when he was brought in for questioning, and he basically, after all of his friends left, some people were high, some people had some coke, and they were all drunk.
Yeah.
And then he lit a fire because the place was cold, and then he didn't put a gate on the fire. He realized he was out of beer, and he left to go get beer because he didn't want to drive. He didn't want to drink and drive.
Right.
And it's this weird, like, up-down weird morality shit that happens in this whole decision-making, and he comes back, and the fire has since got out of control, killing all of his children. And obviously, Michelle Williams' character, Randy, leaves him, and this is sort of what sends him down this path of like, well, now I'm a piece of shit, and I'm going to go off and be a piece of shit somewhere.
So the thing that the New York Times article was referring to is that confession scene, and this idea of like, because the cops kind of go, well, you've just made a really bad mistake, and like that's all it is.
It's not criminal.
It's not criminal. But then he did admit to like having cocaine at the party, and and being drunk. I think what you're supposed. Oh, sorry. And the problem there is, and maybe I'm just steeped in this right now because it's part of the narrative of our electoral cycle, and we've just watched the movie 13th, the Abu Duvernay film, and this idea that cocaine isn't criminalized, but crack cocaine was. And this idea that like, oh, we're all we all know each other, we're all people, like a little bit of forgiveness is needed here, and that's not something that a minority might feel in that same situation.
I 100% agree.
I do think that New York Times article goes a little too far, and that's out of the fabric of what the film actually is.
Exactly.
But it is like,
but it's true. Nonetheless, it's true.
It's hard to watch that scene if you're kind of in that mindset and not think about that.
Yeah. And of course I didn't think of that because I'm not a minority, right? So other than being female. So it's interesting that you bring that up because now that you've brought it to me, it's kind of shattered the glass, and I'm like, oh, you're right. Like it's not that if he was a black man, what would be the result?
I don't think this film should be about like giving him punishment.
I feel like that's a criticism. It's weird. This is an odd thing because of the world. It's a criticism of the world, not necessarily the film, because this moment in the film, because this is the bottom line. In that moment, right, when the cops learned about the drug use and the accidental, basically like all of his children die basically because of his negligence, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't we? And this is a weird question.
Would you consider it criminal negligence?
No, this is what I'm saying. Wouldn't you want to live in a world where not only just the white guy gets this, but like everybody gets this level of thing?
Of course.
So by that argument, I don't think the world is like that. I think the world is incredibly unfair, and that's a topic for a whole nother thing. So because I would want everyone to be treated like that, and they're not the movie's not commenting on the racial divide of this moment. I don't feel like that criticism has weight here. We can think about it outside of the context, but I don't think that affects the movie one way or the other.
I don't think that scene should carry the whole weight of that.
No,
I agree. Right. I agree. And like I said, I don't think the New York Times article, I think the New York Times review goes too far.
It's unfair.
It's unfair to the film.
But I think the point of that scene is also you're supposed to realize that this could happen to anyone.
Right.
I think that's what they were trying to do.
It's just the addition of cocaine that kind of makes that.
But how many people truly in this world do cocaine? A lot. Like it's just people don't talk about it.
No, but I guess the thing is does the addition of cocaine make it criminal negligence? Because
I don't think so, because I think
he never said he was doing cocaine. He said cocaine was there.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, we're running out of time. We're almost over an hour. I want to get through this stuff. The funeral happens beforehand. Randy calls what?
Well, just before that, I think the most devastating scene happens right there in the police office
when he grabs the gun.
When he grabs the gun.
Oh, he tries to kill himself.
Again. Just something that if he was a minority might go down entirely differently. Just saying that.
Yep,
just putting that out there.
Fair.
100% fair, but 100% the same sort of thing that I bring up for the last bit.
But that scene was like, it was the same reaction I would have to a horror movie. Like, it was like... oh God. And then you realize that he doesn't succeed. Yeah. But the fact that he wanted to is the devastating part. Right.
So funeral happens. Beforehand, Randy calls and asks if she can go, because apparently Randy stayed in touch with Joe. And Lee says that's fine, but also she lets him know that she's pregnant. And once we meet the husband, we meet poor man's Edward Snowden at the funeral. She's pregnant, and the funeral happens, and it's just awkward and weird, and their relationship is just it's the way it should be at this point, I guess. Not that it is. Then, meanwhile, Patrick has been emailing his absentee and possibly alcoholic/psychotic mother, and they arrange
Gretchen
a sort
Mol
of
as well, which we haven't seen Gretchen Mol in a while.
Yeah.
And they arrange a visit with her new husband in Connecticut. Also, all the while, Patrick and Lee are having an interaction where Lee's sort of like half parenting, like he's like not quite parenting, and like he's realizing he's sleeping with two different girls, like one girl he's in a band with. Side note: I tried so fucking hard to get the band
Stenographers.
No, it was
What was it?
I found it earlier. Stentorian.
Stentorian.
I tried finding that music so hard for the beginning and end of this. It is nowhere.
Really?
I want to run.
Yeah.
And like, I was just like, oh, fuck. Anyway. I
think there's an interesting thing there, which is that you're not sure if Patrick, the son, is taking advantage of his father's death. You know, like that's the thing I thought was really interesting is like, because he says to Lee, hey, I'm going to have some, you know, like as soon as they come back from the morgue, hey, do you mind if I have some people over? And do you mind if we have some pizza? And I'm like, are you really grieving at this moment? Or are you just kind of like
manipulating the new position?
Yeah, basically it's like, you know, like, oh, my dad would kind of let me have this girl over. So but then he says something like, but her parents don't let her sleep in my room when she's here. So don't let them know. So I was like, are you just actually taking it? And
I think a little bit, but not much, because when the first girl that he has over comes downstairs the next morning, she acts like she's been there, like she's lived there. Like,
right, it's clear that that's
she
true.
opens the fridge, she grabs a fucking yogurt.
She's always having breakfast there.
Yeah. It felt very like this is what happened.
That scene made me laugh out loud.
Right.
I like, especially because the eye level he's at is with her boobs, which I thought was very interesting, which I don't know if you guys noticed.
No.
I did notice.
But he's on the phone with like the viewer home, and he's like looking at her, and she's just like barely clothed, and she's annoying, and the whole thing is just brilliant.
Well, she kind of crosses that familial boundary, which is that she's an outsider to this unit, even though the new unit is newly formed. But she kind of says something like, "Excuse me, I don't think Patrick needs to hear this right now."
She's controlling it,
and it's like that's the kind of thing that like. In my family, you would be get the fuck out at this moment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Your opinion does not matter right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Anyway.
So that's all happening with Patrick.
I think that relationship with Patrick is really interesting in terms of like, where and the rest of the movie is actually about like, will Lee stay and look at and take Patrick?
Right.
The foundation of like the plot.
Yeah,
right?
sure. It's what the rest of the film is about. And again, I guess my problem here is that I felt like the stakes of that storyline weren't very high for me. Like it didn't feel like, and they resolve in a way that I think is true to the story
and true to real life.
Right.
But they're not particularly.
The stakes are high because of the next bit. The next bit is, so the only other real person that could legally take Patrick is Patrick's mother. She's been MIA except for a couple emails. They arranged this meeting in Connecticut. She's apparently cleaned up her life and blah, blah, blah. We go meet her and her husband, Matthew Broderick. And he goes and has a very awkward
Can I correct you? I think
dinner.
it's Essex. I think she was in Connecticut a year ago, and then she moves back to Massachusetts.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
that's all right.
She's found God.
She's found God.
Yes.
She's born. I think they're born again.
Something
I don't
like
know.
That.
Who can say? And it's again, they have it's not a bad meeting, but like there's just an undercurrent of like things are not good here.
Yeah. This is not going to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and Lee's driving Patrick back, and he's like, you can tell that now that's sort of shattered in Patrick's head. He's like, oh, that's not what I want. There's no one else really to watch him. So at this point in the movie, things get better for a minute. Like there's another argument about the boat. Lee says they have to sell the boat. Patrick doesn't want to because it's his boat. Technically, or when the trust or whoever the law works.
Yeah.
But it's going to cost too much money. They don't have it. Which is all sort of very true. But they find like a set of old guns in a thing, and they sell the guns.
You see what I'm saying is like the major problem is what's going to happen to Patrick.
I know,
and the resolve for that is kind of incidental. I've seen many movies where plot lines are incidental to the emotional through line, but
the character development.
And the character development, but the emotional through line here kind of takes a very still line. You know, like it's a very
the difference
straight
is
line.
Here's the thing: it's not what's going to happen to Patrick, because Patrick is set up in this movie as he's grieving, and there's moments where he breaks down. He's going to be fine. He's 16 or 17 at this point, or whatever it is.
Yep.
He's almost an adult. He will be fine. He could technically go anywhere and not really change or like really hurt himself, and he'll be fine. It's what's going to happen to Lee. Will Lee let this situation help him up from the fucking dredges of where he is?
Right.
Exactly.
That's the stakes.
Right.
Patrick's fine. So
I think the question there is like, will Lee like basically step up to help? Like, can Lee?
It's not. No. It's not him stepping up to help Patrick. It's stepping up to better to change his fucking whole existence.
Let's say, can he get past his grief, right?
Can he get past his grief? And also, can he get past his grief to adopt another son? Like his whole
And
family,
also
his
move
child.
home to this town
That
that
everyone
clearly
fucking hates him.
and it haunts him. He
Yeah.
can't. He's in
There's
this
a-
town, and all he feels is the weight of his children's
There's a
death.
beautiful scene, and I know we're getting close to the end here, but there are some of the things that I really love in this movie is the way that it's understated. So there's a scene where he goes back home and he brings back some of his stuff, and there's 3 picture frames. We don't need to
Yes.
see what the picture frames are, and the film doesn't ever show us what those picture frames are, but we know,
We know.
Characters look at them.
we know
and
exactly.
we know what he's feeling. That moment in the bedroom, where right before he smashes his hand through the window,
And he
is one of
looks-
the best scenes in the movie.
And because what he's looking at is this empty space out by the water, and we can probably infer that that's where his house was.
Yeah.
Or he's looking at his, and he can't stay in this place because
Yep.
that's the memory that's going to haunt
And
him
he punches
forever.
the windows because he realizes he'll never be able to live.
Yeah.
in this
And
place
there's an
again.
interesting scene too where Lee and Patrick are clashing, and Lee says that he'll take Patrick, but they're moving to Boston. Like he'll get a place, and Patrick's like, I don't want to leave my school, my friends, my 2 girlfriends, the hockey team,
He
or the
lists it
band.
all.
And he's like, what are you? You're a janitor in fucking Quincy.
Yeah.
Well, you can be a janitor anywhere, but Patrick's not getting.
like Will Hunting. You could be a janitor anywhere.
Yeah.
See, this is what I'm saying.
and
This is
we're
the
back.
second
Yeah.
in the trilogy.
Yeah. So like Patrick doesn't quite get that. I mean, and I don't know if he even necessarily should, because he's dealing with the death of his own father. Yada yada yada. So basically, as things start to go downhill, does Lee run into Randy first, or does Lee get drunk first?
No,
He runs into Randy, and then he gets
But what
drunk.
happens is there's this beautiful like up moment where they've solved the boat problem.
Yes.
By
Selling the guns, and they
like,
get an engine, and they're going to rent out the
Yeah,
boat.
they're
And
gonna
the
rent,
plot's
and it's
moving forward, and
it's
you're
a
feeling
good day.
satisfied as a
It's
viewer.
a good day.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
Then Randy comes,
Fucks it all up.
fucks it all up.
well,
That scene, though,
it's a
I need
really
to hold
good-
on to the desk,
It's a
people.
really, really good scene, and what I love about
What
this scene
what happens is
is Lee runs into into Randy with her new son, and she basically breaks down in front of him and says, look, I'm sorry for everything that happened. I've said things that I shouldn't have said. I should burn in hell for the things I've said. And what I love about this scene is the way in which Lee wants to he's basically being given an olive branch. He's basically being offered forgiveness for the weight that he's carrying. And he says this line, which is so beautiful at the end. He says, and he's deflecting her the whole time. And he says this line at the end, there's just nothing there.
Yep.
There's nothing,
That's the moment. That's like
Yeah.
the whole movie.
Yeah,
Right.
there's
because she wants
nothing
to
there.
have lunch. She says she loves him.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, and she says, I know your heart's broken too.
Yeah. And he's like, you don't understand.
It's not. There's nothing
It-
there.
I have no heart anymore. There's
Mhm.
nothing where there once was a heart. I don't have a heart for you. I don't have a heart for Patrick. I don't have a heart anymore. It's all gone.
Right.
And I think, again, that is the beautiful note about grief that this film has. It is just, my problem is that it is just the one note for
Right.
me.
I think it explores, and you're right, it is one note, but I think it takes that note and explores it so intricately and sort of the depths and different crevices of the way people deal with things like this and the way grief affects families, individuals, etc. So like, I think if they had other notes,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have the time to look as deep and as clearly into these crevices, which in a lot of movies, when someone's grieving, you don't deal with any of this shit. Like, it's just very...
I'm not saying the
Yeah.
film isn't true and it isn't realistic. I just say, for me as a movie experience, I was somewhat unmoved by the time we got to the end. Not that the scenes weren't good.
Can I argue that I think I've heard this before that the plot didn't actually resolve. It didn't go anywhere, right? And
No,
maybe you don't think that, but
No,
I've
it
heard
did,
that.
it did resolve. It's just and I'm also one for films that resolve in unexpected ways.
Because that's what I was going to argue, is that maybe there's a feeling that the plot isn't what you wanted because you're not satisfied by the ending. Because obviously we all are fighting
Yeah.
as the audience to hope that he can stay and take care of Patrick. And when
Right.
he doesn't, it almost feels like, well, why did I just go through all that?
He offers Patrick an olive branch at the end. So the final resolution is that he does find another guardian for Patrick.
Right. Patrick's gonna be
Was
okay.
it Josh?
George.
George.
George, yeah.
But then he kind of like offers like, I'm looking for Lee says, I'm looking for a new apartment, one with an extra bedroom. And he's like, what are you going to look for an extra bedroom for? I don't know. So maybe you could come and stay. He says, well, what am I going to do in Boston? He says, you can come looking for colleges.
He's like,
He goes,
I'm not going
gonna-
to college.
I'm not going to college.
Well, I'll
Well,
just have another room for all my fucking stuff. Then.
yeah.
which we know is literally one box.
Yeah.
yeah.
It is a lovely visual scene. It just didn't. impact me. So we talked about Moonlight earlier this year, and the ending of Moonlight is similar, which is that we're not sure what the resolution is. It's a very slight scene, but the ending of Moonlight really hit me like a ton of bricks because it felt like the culmination of the entire film. I felt that it ended and it was right and true, but it didn't move me.
I think
felt
there's
like this
two
movie
different.
should move me.
I think there's two different sort of styles of filmmaking at play there. One
I would agree.
is Moonlight is this beautiful, just intricate thing that like leads up to this one fucking moment, and you're like, ah,
Yeah.
and it's wonderful. This is a movie that Manchester by the Sea is a movie that sort of, with all of its ups and downs, feels less narrative, quote unquote, to a point, and then ends in the way, even going back to the way you said, like, Argo, you were watching it and you're like, well, this doesn't feel realistic, right? Yeah. This ends in the most realistic way possible, where it's like a tiny concession, but things just go back to the way they are.
Almost the point where you feel like nothing really happened.
Yeah. And what this movie is saying, I think, honestly, is that like life doesn't wait for your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not about you. Yeah. And it
but
sings
can we say that
sing-songy.
In Moonlight and in this movie, I think that it's both about people are holding in these emotions, right? That they're ready to explode at any moment. And it's different emotions and it's different, secrets, if you want to call it that.
Secrets.
Yeah. But I also read that Casey Affleck was, when he was preparing this, he and Kenneth Lonergan talked about the fact that he, as a human, he was a dam, right? And there was all these little holes that were forming in that dam as he goes back to his hometown, and like all the emotions come to the surface, and he's trying to plug those holes.
Yeah, he actually tells Patrick, he's like, I just can't beat it, right? Is that what he said?
That's what he said. And it's because, and all those holes are being like Michelle Williams in that street scene is she's poking holes in that, and he's leaking, and he just wants to hold it all in, and that moment he lets it out for a little bit, it makes the dam break, right? The floodgates open. Yep. But he just doesn't want to live in that space. He can't, he has to hold it in. That's the only way he's going to survive.
Yeah.
The thing that I was going to compare it to a little bit was the Paul Thomas Anderson film, The Master, where I think Joaquin Phoenix in that film is just
unbelievable.
It's kind of in a similar way, which is that he's holding all the stuff in, and the first viewing of the Master kind of left me a little cold, but it was upon subsequent viewing that I kind of like entered the space of
that movie had too much plot, right? So that's why it was like all this stuff being thrown at you. Religion.
So Manchester, I'm this will probably be my final
thought sentence,
which is that it didn't quite work for me on this first viewing. I am curious to review it and see it again, but it did leave me a little cold. I'm curious to watch it again. I know a lot of people love this movie. I do think it's well constructed. I think there are lots of interesting things in this movie, and it's beautifully written, and I'm a big fan of Kenneth Lonergan, but upon this first viewing, it left me a little cold, and I feel a little like maybe The Emperor's New Clothes a little bit with the massive amount of hype that's going behind this film. But maybe that'll change on a second viewing.
Fun fact, I didn't know there was any hype for this film before. I walked into this thing totally cold. I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about the praise. I didn't look at it at all. I didn't look at a trailer. I was basically like Monk Shahir over here, not knowing shit about shit. And I walked out of that thing like, I fucking love this movie. It's great. It had a wonderful ending. The score was great. The cinematography was awesome. The way they cut together the scenes was really, really, it felt current and fresh. And I'd say it was wicked fucking pissa. Julie.
My final thoughts is that I really like to be in sad movies. I think like everyone's talking. I love those worlds.
My people.
Yeah,
here.
It's the world I want to live in for whatever reason. And I guess people are talking about, because it feels real, and I love things that feel real. And people are talking about escapist movies right now because of the world we live in, because 2016 is terrible. But I don't really believe that. I think I want to go see movies that I can feel like I know this world, and I would be a part of this world. So that's my final thought, is that I don't want escapist films.
All right. Well, guys, this has been a wonderful episode, and the only podcast about Manchester by the Sea. Julie, thank you so much for coming.
Yay, thanks, guys.
Where can folks find you when you're not living out every character's sadness?
I'm on all social media, all Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram, and it's always my full name because it's a good name, I think. So it's Julie Lilleby.
Okay.
How do you spell it? Just so.
Yeah, I always spell it Lille, B as in boy, Y, because everyone thinks it's V.
Why? Because we like you.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet. and
now it's time to say goodbye to
Shahir, what about you?
Company.
What about you, buddy? Where are you at?
SHAHIRDAUD.com. That's where you can find me.
Okay.
I don't have a website. Should I have a website?
You should. Well, I have MatthewKroll.com as well. Also,
Damn
Emperor
it.
MSK on Twitter and Skeletor, the number 4 PREZ. I'm not as all. That's on Instagram. All on. I'm not one with myself. I have many
You
different.
actually are though. Like you can
You
get
should
all that
become
stuff
one.
on your website.
It is on the website.
So, why don't you
But
say
it's a
the website?
spider web. It's a cacophony of nightmare.
You have different names. It's okay.
It's fine. In different aliases and certain wanted levels. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for listening. This has been super fun. Please check out, send us what you think of it on onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on our Twitter. It's onlymoviepod. Hit us up on Facebook, which we are there all the time dropping things. I'm going to post a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 stuff because the new trailer just dropped and it's fucking dope. Yeah, so that's about it.
All right. It's been real, guys.
It's been real. It's been fun.
It's been too real.
It's been
too real.
It's never too real, Shahir.
Too fast, too real. Tokyo, real. I gotta go. Bye.
Bye.